have two experienced teachers here who are going to be reflecting about their early years when they were new teachers.
My name is Norma Zuwa. I've been teaching for 18 years. I am a literacy coach at Crawford Elementary, and I came into education through the ACP program. I was a social worker before this, and so I'm going to give you that perspective. And also, I come from a long bloodline of educators, so I come from that type of perspective.
My name is Marian Hossa. This is my 9th year teaching. I was actually a teacher for 7 years before that, and I went through the traditional program here at UTPA, and I'm back finishing up the master's program in early childhood. And in contrast to Norma's family of teachers, I'm the first teacher in my family, the first person with a degree. So that's my perspective.
So I want to begin with Maria. Maria, you said you went through UT Pan American, a traditional program.
Yes.
Have you always wanted to be a teacher?
I didn't. Growing up, you know, the possibilities were slim, but you know, you never saw yourself. I never saw myself in a professional setting. My parents were, you know, migrant workers, and my dad traveled a lot, and my parents' greatest expectations for us were to graduate high school. Once you did that, you did it. And so I got married, had a family, and it was 10 years later that I decided, you know, I want to do this. But I was already a teacher for a couple of years at that time, and that's when my passion grew. That's when I found out what my passion was.
Okay.
So I had 3 young children. My husband started with me. We went together, and we graduated almost the same year. And we went summers. There was no breaks for 5 years. And it was an awesome experience.
And so
I love the university.
That's wonderful. And so your experience actually it mirrors the experiences of many of our students here at UTPA who are first generation to go to college, who never in their wildest dreams or the dreams of their parents ever expected for them to earn a 4-year bachelor's degree with certification. And so I would say that Maria, and I hope you agree, you are a non-traditional student.
Yes.
That's what we call a non-traditional student. We have non-traditional students, those that come back after years, some of them after raising their families, or at least getting them through, kindergarten, who come back and decide to teach. And then, Norma Lisa, your experiences, you said that you come from a family of teachers. Could you elaborate on that? And have you always wanted to be a teacher as well?
No.
Okay.
I did not want to be a teacher because I was raised by teachers, and I was raised by principals. And so therefore, our dinner conversations were not the norm. So when we sat down at the table, we never had a normal conversation. It was always about my aunts that were in administration, and look at the funding, and look at the bilinguals, and this and that. And that's when bilingual was really kicking into the valley. And so they were big advocates, and they still are today. And so I'm very, very thankful because I've learned different perspectives. I've learned the administration, I've learned policy, I've learned about the different changes in education as we go through Congress and things like that. So I am not a traditional person because everyone sat at the table and that's all we did. We talked about literature, we talked about lessons, how the career ladder, which was a long time ago. So I was like, oh, I hate being a teacher. And so I'm going to be a social worker. Like, that's so different.
I know.
It's not.
It's not.
Yeah, you need all that to be a teacher. And so then I became a social worker. And I said, I'm going to be really different from everyone else. But then, destiny and fate and your calling is way stronger than the plans that you have for yourself. So therefore, I came into education, and actually, it's like I share with them is that education chose me. I came here, I was divorced at that time. I came to the parking lot, and I was like, I heard about this program, and I think I want to, just inquire. And that was in October. And so I remember walking down the corridor, and I remember getting off the car and saying like, Lord, give me some type of direction. I need some type of direction. And so I was like, you're going to open doors. Well, literally, that's what happened. I went to the doors, and all of them were locked. I was like, these people are surely, these are normal work hours. And in the distance, this man was walking towards me. And he's like, are you lost? And I was like, man, I can't believe he asked me that question. And I said, yes, I'm here to inquire about the ACP program. He's like, oh, really? He goes, I can help you with that. And so we went into a room, and honestly, like, I don't even know, I know now that that was not his office, but he sat down and he said, this is what you're gonna do. And he kept looking at me. He's like, tell me a little bit about yourself. And then so he's just staring at me. And I was getting, honestly, I was feeling uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden, he said, do you have $600 with you? And I was like, yes. And yes, I do. No, I was like, yes, I do. And he's like, well, you know what? Why don't you take this? And he scribbled on a paper. He closed the envelope. And he said, I want you to take this to the registrar's office. Fine. Went to the registrar's, signed, and then the lady's like, oh, welcome to education. I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't know what was in the envelope. And then she was like, welcome to education. I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, it's because you were talking to the dean. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you're talking to the dean, so you're going to start, you're enrolled. I was like, it's October. He's taking care of all that. So I always say, destiny chose me to this calling, and every day I celebrate this profession, and every day there's new adventures for you, and I love that every single day you come to work and you don't know what's going to happen. That's good. It's kind of like being a cop. Every day is like something different, right? But we go and have different experiences. And it's mindset. It's mindset. It's mindset.
Well, for those of you that don't know, the University of Texas Pan American had the first alternative certification program in the state, and it was the largest, and we had a huge teacher shortage. And so we were the model for the other university-based programs. It wasn't until commercial or for-profit ACP programs grew much, much later. And so that's why at one point it was only universities who could offer that alternative. So they took coursework in the university and not at a business. And so, and they took courses like how you're taking courses.
Right.
You know, so there was more depth to it, okay? So one of the things I wanted to ask you is to think back to when you were a beginning teacher. And maybe let's compare and contrast some of the stories here, the experiences. First with Maria. You went through the traditional program, you went through student teaching,
I did, well, because I was working already, and I was a teacher aide, I was one of the students that was able to do post-bac student teaching. So I actually had my own classroom instead of student teaching.
Yes.
So I didn't have a teacher that I was shadowing throughout my first year.
They gave her credit, that's what it means.
Yes.
They gave her credit for being a full-time paraprofessional, and they gave her the credit of not having to go through full-time student teaching because she already had that experience and has had it for years.
Yes, so I had the observation, I had a professor, I attended classes during that first semester of my teaching, and I did have a professor that would come and observe me.
Exactly.
But I was on, you're not on your own because there's people around you, but the fact that you're not shadowing and learning lessons directly from a teacher is it's different. It's not, because I guess because of my background from teacher aide, I wasn't afraid to just jump in and try it, and I read a lot, and I still do. Whenever I don't know something, like, I'm not, oh, well, I don't know it, I'm not going to teach it. No, you go, Google it, research, read, and that's what's brought me to this point.
Would you say your first years of teaching were very challenging? Would you say that, did you cry at all the first year?
I did cry.
Were there tears?
Only because there was tears.
Yeah.
Because I was, where I had been before, we had formed a family. And then my husband worked at the same school. And not because I wanted to be with him, but he was still part of that family. And I felt isolated. But I, slowly and through, it was just like maybe 3 weeks, like the kids, like the kindergartner kids.
Yes.
It slowly, they became my family. And Norma was actually, I didn't meet Norma until the second year because our paths didn't cross that first year. She left, I came in, and then she came in the next year, and then I left.
Were you assigned a mentor with your?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I was.
Can you talk a little bit about that? And then we'll talk about Norma.
She would come and do periodical observations, and we would collaborate a lot. But like I said, I didn't have an opportunity to go in and shadow her and watch her and do a math lesson. So everything that I did was out of my own experience. Because my background is, I do a lot of art, like I'm real artsy. So everything that I collected, I tied it in. And I remember my principal saying, Hari, it's your first year and you have everything all tied. It looks like you've been teaching for years. Well, I've been in the classroom for years, but, this is my part, like my personal, making the baskets and collecting books, because that's like the main thing that you have to do is collect books of all levels, all genres. I mean, from the letter books to novels, because right now I'm a second grade teacher and I have kids that started off with letter books and I have children that are reading novels. So there's a big variety in my classroom.
Provide that.
Yes. So we're not only a classroom, we're also a mini library.
Absolutely. And then, Norma, would you like to just kind of go down memory lane and explain to us, or just tell us what you remember about your first year teaching?
Well, my first year I went and taught at a school that was surrounded by projects. So, you have this beautiful image of you walking in, everyone being smart, taking off. It's just so beautiful. But then when I got there, it was like, whew. No one knew how to read. I was a rookie on the team. I had all the low students. And I remember that first day, when I walked in, I was like, oh my God, I'm a teacher. And I remember seeing all the students. And I was no longer in the background. I was
Right.
up in center. And so when I remember walking in, all the students were looking at me, and I thought, oh my God, all these little brains are depending on me. And all that I'm going to give and all that I'm going to be is going to be what they're going to be at the end of the year. And so after I just brought in my experiences. I'm like, okay, everyone take out their reader, and you read, and you read, and then you read. And that's all I remember, because I remember my 5th grade teacher. And, that was round robin. And then all of a sudden, when one reader stood, he didn't know how to read. I thought, it's okay, statistic. The next reader, and I thought, oh my God, I'm in 3rd grade, what am I gonna do? So I went home, have what? That support system, and they all looked at, because it was a big celebration that day. The apples and the whole thing, that's just my family. And so, we were gonna go out, I remember, and they're like, how was your day as a teacher? And I was like, oh my God, the kids don't know how to read. And they're just looking at me and they're kind of like chuckling. And they're like, it's okay. And my mom says, you know what? It's not your fault, but it's your problem. And you know what? I was like, what?
I like her mom already.
And then she's like, what are you going to do about it? It's talking about effective planning. I need to be strategic in your planning. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I want to do. So I sat down, I studied, looked at my teaks, thought, how can I help them? Went to meet their families. That was important for me. I was not from that area. And so went out there, and that did it for me. That year, I had 100% success. And from then on, it just continued. I spiraled with that group of children, went from 3rd grade to 4th grade with them, and I just loved them to pieces. And that's where you begin. And it's about your mindset. How are you going to see that year? Are you going to complain? Are you going to see it as a negative? Or are you going to just turn it around and make it into a positive? Because you know what? There's negative. But it's about you, and it's about your mindset. And it's like, you know what? They don't know how to read. How am I going to get them to read? I don't know. Let's see. Let's check. And don't be afraid to ask. Some teachers, I notice they're afraid. But the people around you, and sometimes even if it's not in that grade level, go out. There's people that are willing to help you because they're going to connect with that feeling of, I remember what that was like.
Yes. And did you have a mentor
When
in a prescribed mentoring program, or was it
No.
more informal?
it was informal.
Okay.
I had my supervisor,
Yes.
but she would go in and she was a great help. But if I wouldn't have come from a family like that, honestly, like, you know, hats off. Hats off to, you know, she's like, oh, you're so lucky, you know, when she's with my family and we were talking about that, she's like, I wish I had that. And so you need to find that. And sometimes it might be with the people that you graduate with, calling them, that support system.
But in the campus, did you find at least some
Yes.
informal mentors?
Yes.
Teachers
Yes.
that you could go to
Yes.
that offered help and reases and
Yes,
things
and
like
that's what I was,
that?
that's what I was
Yes,
telling them, that
yes.
you're gonna find it, if you can't find it within your grade level, don't let that stump you. Don't be like, oh, well, I don't know anyone here. Go and knock on doors. Their teachers, they wanna help you, you know, and don't give up just because it's not right there, you know?
And
So,
it's not just your first year. This is my 9th year of teaching, and
Yes.
I found Norma 2 years ago. She's been my mentor ever since.
Oh, wow.
And we've never taught the same grade level. She's always been kinder, now she's the TLI coach. Most of my career it's been second grade, but it's always been bouncing off ideas off of her, off of other teachers that are probably sometimes not even in your own grade level, but you find that strong person, you find that teacher that, you know, is really passionate about what they're doing,
But
and
it's-
you question them, and
It's
you.
also about that you all sync. You're in
Yeah.
sync about your ideas, your philosophies, and so
Yes, you
on.
find somebody with that
And what the
philosophy.
research says is that even though you're not in the same grade level, that's not really ideal. What the research says is that your first year teacher, you will go through this initial period of survival mode.
Yes.
Because what hits you at the very beginning is a lot of paperwork, managerial, issues, lesson planning, but also just lots of forms and forms and
Yes.
forms. And then you have to look at scores. The data that Dr. Salgado was talking about during our brown bag lunch, looking at diagnostic data, getting to know your students, getting to understand the culture of the school, trying to develop collegial relationships with other teachers. All these, it's overwhelming. And I know I said, did you cry? Because even the men cry.
You do cry.
Their
Yes.
first year is just very overwhelming. Whether you've gone through a traditional program, whether you've been a paraprofessional or not, and had that experience, or maybe a sub. Some of you have sub experience. Some of you are going through traditional programs at the university. And so whatever the case, first year teaching is first year teaching. And it is very, very, very challenging. And you will, because you are a human being, eventually take some things personal. Even if you don't try not to, you will, because you care and you want to be effective. So you go through that first period of survival mode, which usually lasts between, first it's anticipation. That whole stage of anticipation you talked about.
Yeah.
How excited you are at the very beginning, because you just imagine all of these little ones just hanging on the edge of their seats to hear, everything you're going to teach them, and they're just going to love me. They're going to just.
Yeah.
So you go through that anticipation, but it quickly turns into disillusionment, and that happens between September and Christmas break.
Yes.
And during that time, I didn't think it was going to be this hard, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think that I wasn't going to feel as supported as I thought I was going to feel, because you're still who you are and you have high expectations. You're being evaluated on the same level as these women who have been in teaching for 9 years and 18 years. And you're a first year teacher and you're looked at the same, but you're not the same. And you have different needs. So all the way to Christmas break, you're kind of in a state of disillusionment. And that's normal. And that's okay, because during Christmas break, rejuvenation. That's the
Game
third
plan.
stage. Rejuvenation is sleep,
Yes.
good food, socializing, family, friends, and you need it so badly, those 2 weeks of Christmas break. It goes by in a flash. But it's also reflection about everything that's happened so far, and how in January, I'm going to get it together and it's going to just flow, because now I know what to expect that whole first semester. So then in January, anticipation again. And so you get through that stage. And I'm
Yes.
just going through what the research says.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into some Q&A,
Yeah.
okay? But after that, anticipation again, and then you start feeling really in control. and really like you're coming into your own. You know, what you just said earlier, oh my gosh, I'm a teacher. You don't feel that anymore. You're like, I am a teacher.
Exactly.
I am the teacher. And it's a great feeling. And at that point in time, you would have already established the trust with your students, the rapport. So now it's easier, and everybody's happy. All the children are happy, they're rested, they're relaxed, they've had Christmas. And so then after that, you know, you start to really get effective. And then you become much more, you just feel very good about yourself. It's all about effectiveness. It's no longer survival. Now it's effectiveness, teaching effectiveness, okay? And then it starts over again in your second year. Second year, talk about your second years, how different it was from your first year. That's what I'd like you to share first, Maria, if you can. If you can recall, it was a while ago. But second year teaching and how you felt that, you know, in August, you were ready to go your second year.
I was actually really lucky. My second year, I got to loop with about 15 of my students.
Mhm.
So I already knew them by the second year.
Tell them what loop means.
Loop means that I taught them in the first year, and I got most of my class in my second year. So they saw Marian Hossa twice. So I already knew how far they had already come up and how much they already know how to read, and you know, all their levels. So it was a little bit easier in that sense. It was hard because I was going from my first year to be a first grade teacher, and my second year I was a second grade teacher.
Okay.
So I had to learn all the new TEs, all the new TEKs, you know, everything was new. So in that sense, it was a little bit hard, but it was easy because I already knew my students.
Good.
So,
And what about you? Could you share your
I
second year? You can remember?
shared the same experience as her. I looped with my students, went from third grade into fourth grade, which is every single grade is its own world. And you have to, you know what, start from scratch. That same procedure, and I love that you walked through that whole process.
Yeah.
I wish that I would have had someone say, you know what, this is normal.
It is normal.
And if I didn't have my
I'm proud of you.
family, you know, to tell me,
For a long time.
it's okay, it's all right, it's not
Yes.
your problem.
yes.
Yes.
And so, you know, I didn't, you know, you want to have that reassurance. And again, as a first year teacher, you really want to go and knock on doors and open yourself up, because that is something that I have seen through the years. And even with, Betty, she opening, it's like I tell her, you need to get out there. Open yourself up. Go knock at people's doors. Can I come and observe you during conference? They're going to say yes. And you know what? You need to grow as an individual. You don't know it all your first year. You don't know it all your 18th year. And so you need to every day be like, okay, you know what? I heard that teacher did really good in whatever. She did really well. And it's like, Miss So-and-so, can I, come and observe you? And she's going to say, yeah, come on in on so-and-so day.
Principals will ask you your very first year to observe the teachers they want you to go observe a lot of times. Things are very different now than they were when we were all beginning teachers. Very different. Now we have very structured induction support systems. We have definitely, the leadership is so important, as Dr. Samora was saying. I keep bouncing off him because he's right. The leadership is very important. The principal should match you with someone that they think is kind of compatible in personalities. It has to be somebody that teaches your grade level, your content area is in close proximity, and has at least 5 years teaching experience. At least. That's optimal. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes they can't find that scenario. But they will make every effort to do that. And then you have your informal teachers, like informal mentors, other teachers that you start to get to know. And I think that's a very valuable thing that you just said, because if you close yourself and you think, oh no, I don't want anybody to know that I don't know. I don't want anybody to know that I'm inexperienced. Do not feel that way. You have to have the opposite attitude. I don't know. Help me, help me, help me. And also, yes, I will accept your help. And yes, I will observe your class. And wow, all of those things are very important. And you know what you're going to get? You're going to get collegiality.
Exactly.
You're going to get respect from those more experienced teachers. They're going to look at you and go, wow, this woman or this gentleman is going to be a great teacher because he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder or her shoulder and isn't closed to the idea of growth. You cannot graduate from any institution to become a teacher and be ready and be like a 30-year vet. You can't. You have to grow over time. There is no substitute for experience, in anything, in any aspect of your life. Experience makes you wiser and smarter, okay? So I want to open up the questions now.
It wasn't a question, it was more of a comment.
Okay.
I once asked an experienced teacher, she's got about 23 years, she's like right across the hall. And I once asked her during my first year, or my second year, when am I gonna feel like I've learned enough? And it was really funny. I mean, I was a new teacher, I didn't know, I was like, when am I gonna feel like, okay, this is it, And of course she said, never. You're never gonna feel
I
like it.
agree.
And now people ask me,
I was just thinking the
and
same.
it's like, never. You always feel like you can do more, you can learn more, there's always better. You switch from one grade to another, and you're always gonna feel that way. And I thought, oh, how silly, I can't believe I asked that, and
No,
right
that
across
is a
the hall.
great question.
But yeah.
It is a great question, isn't it? A great comment. Because, we are supposed to be lifelong learners. That's not just on the framework for your licensure exam. That is actually the truth. We have to have that mentality, don't we? That we are lifelong learners. We learn with our students. Our students teach us new things every day. We have to be operating from the stance of a learner, just the way that our children are in the classroom. That's so imperative. If you are operating from the stance of, I am the all-knowing, omniscient one because I went to UTPA and I have my 4 years bachelor's degree and I'm licensed, so I know everything there is to know about everything. Wow, you're going to find out real quickly that you don't. Real quickly. And so, when I say, I cried every day, I cried every day for a little while because I was teaching the lowest literacy levels of my 9th and 10th graders. The hard to teach kids, the hard to reach kids, because they were resistant and reluctant learners because they've been passed along so much. So why was I crying? Because I thought, how am I going to teach them? I'm not good enough, I don't have enough experience. And that's how it was back then. They would just throw you in there. They'd throw you in, it was like boot camp. You had to earn your stripes, right?
Oh yeah, you have to earn your stripes.
I don't know if it's that much different in some schools today. You had to, the way we talk about tracking in the schools,
Yes.
teachers get tracked too.
Oh, yes.
And then you earn your way, the mentality is you earn your way to teaching the honors kids. So what is that saying? That those kids are better, that they're worthy of the better, more experienced teachers? Wow, that's really messed up. That's not very equitable, right? That's not very democratic. That's not very ethical either, okay? So those kinds of things are changing. For those of you that went to the principal panel, those are dynamic principals.
Yeah.
They know that they're not gonna do that to a new teacher because they are investing in you for your career, for the extent of your
For
career.
the long haul.
And so they're gonna wanna empower you and support you and nurture everything about you so that you are happy and that you are able to do more. So you need to ask those questions in the interview. What do you do to help support new teachers like me? Because I know I'm gonna need a good mentor, And if the principal doesn't even know what mentor means, run out of there as fast as you can. That's not a very good or prepared leader, okay? But if they say, oh, let me tell you all about our mentoring program. This is what we do, And they tell you about it and you feel comfortable. You're shopping too. You need to feel comfortable. You deserve to be comfortable and teach in a place that fits you as well, okay? I want to open it up some questions for the two teachers here. Any questions about anything?
I like that you said that we track, and we do track. Now I'm on the other side of the tracks. I am that part of the administrative team, and I can tell you now that now seeing at a wider scale, because sometimes we are within our four walls, and we are the supreme being in that one room. But now when you step out and you're like, whoa, 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 and that's why I tell you, step out of your comfort zone. Get out, talk to the teachers, talk to the administration, and you know what? Again, like she said it very well. Don't walk around like, I know it all, I'm good, I'm fresh, you're old, I'm new. Because we do. We walk around like that, and it's not good. Because we need to look at those look at that whole scope that you have in that school. and say, I want to go in there and I want to learn from her. And I want to don't close yourself off, because sometimes don't judge a book by its cover. Sometimes you might think like, oh, you know, that lady looks, but she might just be that one link that you need. You just need one really strong link, right? To help you through that first year. And then, but open yourself up. Go get out there. Don't expect people to come, you know, teachers are very busy and you're gonna see that.
Oh, yes.
That, you know what, I don't have time to go and, hi, how are you, whatever. I can just say that, bye-bye, I gotta run copies. But, you know, get yourself out there after school. Hi, I was just wanting to come talk to you, you know, can I look at your room? How classroom organization is big. You know, do your research, get online. You have the world at your fingertips.
Yes.
And get in there, classroom organization, classroom management. You know, don't wait for somebody to give you something. Get out there, because in the eyes of your administrators, that's what makes a difference. It's like, you know what, that little girl, she might be here for, this is her first year, but she wants to learn.
And she's a woman.
Hallelujah.
She is a
But
professional.
you want that. You want that.
Yes. Yes. I was just joking. But no, this is how, and it's true. The more seasoned, I use seasoned, people laugh at me, but I say the more seasoned teachers and principals do look at you like mijita, mijito. You know, they do. And it's an endearing thing. It's a cultural thing.
Yes, it is.
But, you know, they I know for many of you would find that kind of like offensive, like, hello, I was told that when I graduated that I would be, you know, a teacher and a professional.
Yes.
So it is very important, you know, all of these things. Do y'all have any questions about first year teaching? Yes, go ahead. To anybody.
Like you said, it's maybe elementary or
Yes.
secondary. And out of the court areas, of course, everything is tax
Oh, yes.
or star now.
Yes, ma'am.
It's all court areas. Where does that leave the elective work? Oh, anything we need or anything we ask, or I'll speak for myself.
Feeling like a second.
You're not court. It's not for you. We don't have the funds for you. We don't have the attention for you. We're not dealing with non-core right now. You know, it's everything. It's the only thing that's important is court area. But then when it comes to UIL and all that, if the kid's not passing, guess what? Even though it's not court area, the child's not able to participate. And that's when,
How do you handle that?
yeah.
Okay, well, I've been there. I've taught third, fourth. I have been a music teacher as well. I come from a very strong background in music. And so I know where you are at if you're asking that question. Sometimes because of the rigorous testing deadlines that we want to meet, and those standards, sometimes principals and administration can sometimes say, you know what, that's not important right now. They put things on a priority list, and you might feel as a teacher that I don't matter. My content is not important. Well, again, at the very beginning, I said it's our mindset. And you know what? When you enter a school, you're entering a family. You're entering an organization, and you're entering an entity. And you have to say sometimes, you know what is it that you need from me, instead of like, why are you taking from me? So it's like, okay, you know what, if you want me to put because it's like she said, your principal, you know, we don't want to go against the grain that first year, because they're your bridge to, you know, it might not be for you that right fit, like she said, that first year, you might want to move to another school, but you're going to need them. And so the great thing that you want someone to say about you is, I'm a team player. And being a team player is just not words, they're actions. And it's like, okay, you know what is it that you need? If I need to put my music down right now, or I need to put my UIL down right now, I know I still need, you're going to have to, as a teacher, find inventive ways to do it. Either get here early, stay after school, how can I make contact with you? You know, come in on Saturdays. That's just our system. But, you know, I've been where you are, where they're like, you know what, we need you right now in this so-and-so classroom. You know, I was in kinder teaching third, helping fourth, you know, and where would I have been if I would have said, hey, I'm a kinder teacher. This is my area. It's like, on the contrary, you're like, do you need me in third? Okay, great. And as soon as you walk away, you're like, oh my God, this extra lesson plans I have to do. But you know what? At the end of the day, I left that school, and it's like, you want those recommendations, you know, to say, she is a team player. That's what it takes. So find other ways, get inventive on your timing. I hope that I maybe answered that, but is it
It's
not
more
gonna
about-
be important?
You're speaking, I think, a little bit more,
Yeah.
if I heard you about electives getting kind of pushed to the side and you're feeling like a second-class citizen.
Right.
Because the core subject teachers are getting much more support because of the accountability. So, and I come from secondary, so I think, yeah, I think I could try to
Yeah, that's
answer
what
that.
you
Yeah.
say, you know, getting there early,
Right.
helping out in the other grades, helping out in math when you're not math, staying after school, coming in on Saturdays, doing all that, and yet, oh, well,
Not getting the support in your
There.
core.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that a smart principal would do is to utilize and to understand that all the electives are actually, for a lot of kids, that's why they like to go to school.
Yeah.
Because
That's
of
the only reason they
because of
like
the
to
art, because of sports, because of band, because of orchestra. That's what gets them up in the morning, not math or science or English. But, so what do? We have to definitely express ourselves, but work as a team. I like that you're saying that. And you're right, you're a family. It can feel like a dysfunctional family, yes, but family sticks together, right? And so what you do is you need to try, I would advise you to try to say, okay, I have a lot to offer in my electives that will help support the core. Because everybody has vocabulary in the academic subjects. So if you can infuse some of that academic language in your subject and you're doing a good job and say, but principal, I really need more art resources. And I will do this, I'm a team player, but how can I, and just keep, and those who scream the loudest get heard. But you have to do the approach in a nice way.
Right.
So it is,
And playing safe.
it is about, and your first year teaching, your first and second and third and fourth and fifth year teaching, and probably forever, but especially at the beginning, you really have to say less, listen more. Listen more, say less.
Yes.
You don't want to be a whiner.
Oh.
You don't want to fall into that trap, You don't want to be a complainer. Even though you're complaining in your head a little bit because, it's all new and it wasn't what you expected, talk to your mentor teacher and say how disappointed. That's the colleague, that's the relationship, or if it's not your mentor teacher, one that you can really connect with, and just ask questions from the vantage point of a learner again, and be learning. But you don't want to be the one that they label, that the teachers label as the whiner, the complainer.
Yes.
She's not a team player, he's not a team player. Oh my gosh, after this year I would not hire this person again.
Yes.
They're always complaining. You don't want to be negative. What you want to do is you want to look at the positive. And really you keep the children at the center of everything that you do. And honestly, I think I said it this morning, that's the way I operate. I keep my students at the center of every decision I make and what's in their best interest. You can never go wrong. No decision will come back to haunt you if you keep them at the center. You will never say, I regret that.
Yep.
If it was in the best interest of the child, you'll never ever say that in your whole career. That's
agree.
very, very important.
I agree.
Any questions or concerns for New Year teachers? What best advice maybe that you all have for them?
I think my best advice is to find procedures, because everything needs a procedure. From putting the books away, to walking in line, to asking permission to go to the bathroom, every single thing. Once I learned that, and I set a procedure, I literally made myself a list. These are the procedures that I'm gonna teach today on my first days of school. I do it to this day. It makes the rest of the year.
For management.
Yes.
Management. Classroom routines and procedures.
Yes.
Write that down.
Not just your rules, you're supposed to set your rules up. We put them up, but we don't use them because we have so many procedures that there's no time for the rules
To be broken.
broken.
Mhm.
So we don't have time for that. We have to, lining up procedures, getting in line, asking a question. All of those procedures will eliminate you having to have the rules and have a discipline plan.
I have a question. You know how just recently about the lockdown
Uh-huh.
procedure? Are the teachers, are you guys getting like sit on the side and they tell you what to do, or is
Yes,
it kind of
yes,
like?
we do.
Do you have a committee on the school that educates you on that? We do, we recommend, because that did happen to us. We did prepare, we went and made that a lesson. And so we taught the children, and even that first time that you're gonna teach children, because of their background, they break out into anxiety. And so because of that, one time we were doing that, we went into the restroom that we had in our classroom, and I had a little boy, literally, like he was my top student. I never expected it from him. And he just had a horrible, horrible experience, and he scared me. But once I discovered and went into his experiences, he had a big break-in into his house. And so they held them hostage. And so when we went in that room and he saw the lights go down and we went, and that's why you have to, practice, keep calm, again, the routines, the management. It's all how you are going to handle that. Don't like, everybody run! Because that's, and we practice.
I literally, like, I have my set of keys. I have one student assigned. When that alarm comes, you're assigned to getting the key. You're assigned to moving the students this way. You need to be out of the way so I can pull down the windows. Everybody knows exactly where to go. So when it does happen, there's no fear. They're just, we already know what to do, and everybody does what needs to be done.
Where, us coming in as a first-year teacher,
Yes.
are we going to be also prepared, or are we
No, they
Teacher
will.
orientation, so-
You should have a training on,
Everything on-
and again, talking to your teachers that are around you, it's like, what, and maybe they haven't found it important, but we would recommend that, because that is happening. In fact, it just happened yesterday at a school. Two schools went in lockdown. And so, they were about to have a faculty meeting. So, you want to practice those things, even among yourselves. Teachers don't know what to do. Again, because, calm, routine, like I tell her all the time, it's about your routines. Classroom management. Because if not, that is some added stress. Little kids, they can, wow.
I know.
Yeah, they can break you.
I couldn't do it. I like the older ones.
So.
Also, just so you know, this is a good time to be a teacher, because schools and universities are communicating.
Yes.
And have been for at least a decade. And so that didn't happen prior to 10 years ago. It was like a big line between the university and the schools, which doesn't make any sense at all, because we're preparing teachers. So because of that, you're coming in, and schools are making sure, Elsa, that you know everything that you need to do for a lockdown procedure, A lot of these larger high schools have police substations in their schools. You're very well protected. The schools, the gang violence that you used to see in these larger schools in the valley, it doesn't exist. The gangsters know that if something happens, an altercation happens, they're going to get arrested and they're going to go to jail. So they do it outside of campus. If anything like that happens, it happens outside of campus. It's unusual. Whereas before it was more common. I mean, fights broke out on a daily basis, and not anymore. So that police presence has been very helpful, And we don't live, at least here in the valley, we're not in a super urban area. So, and I believe a lot of the culture of the Rio Grande Valley, really perpetuates this, the ideas of respect, and it's very conservative. All the schools, the missions of the schools and all of that. I really believe that all of you will be very well supported compared to the way maybe some of us more experienced teachers maybe weren't. And so that's a very good thing. But you need to take that initiative. Ask those questions. Be confident. Be confident.
Get out there.
Yes.
Thank you.